number one, whether we're bleaching, perming, or conditioning, we really want to make sure that the hair is in its best form possible. And so the perms do not sit on the wayside with that. They actually make the hair feel really wonderful. In the past, perms that I've used, you know, they work and they're great, but they always kind of made the hair feel a little, and I think part of that was also how I was taught to do perms. So with some of the little tips and tricks that I'll go over today, and then in addition to that, the ingredients that we use, the hair is going to feel amazing. The only time a heat source is recommended is with balance, and only when you have very resistant hair. You can see how it says heat source only required for particularly difficult cases. Well, that could mean a lot of things. But really in the Davines world, it means resistant. Hair that's very hard to curl. So if you've had somebody where a perm doesn't take, I have clients who have said that before. Well, I've gotten a perm before and it never takes. Well, they're just resistant. So that's when you would use a heat source, and it's only with the balancing system. And it really does map that out for you guys down below when we go through the chart on when specifically you would use heat on somebody. But balance is suitable for all hair types, even color treated, even bleached or highlighted, and it's safe and very simple to use. The biggest thing, you guys, that I feel like sets us apart from other brands is that our perms come in bulk. So our perm solutions and the neutralizing comes in bigger bottles, and then you put it into a perm specific tint bottle of sorts. It looks like a little tint bottle with a long tip on it. And then you have a lot less waste. It's not like one box perm per client. That was another thing that always sort of bothered me in the past was, okay, I have this system in a box and either I need 2 of them or 1.5 of them or half of one. It's like, when do you ever just use exactly 1 bottle on somebody? And quite frankly, if I only need half a bottle on someone, I squeeze the rest on just to kind of not waste it, right? Which is not necessary. So you get a lot less waste and you can get much more precise measurements for each person, and then you can charge according to that if you choose to do so. So if I use 20 grams of perm solution on somebody, it's this much, and so on and so forth. So it's going to actually make you a lot more money, and you're going to waste a lot less. The price per use is much less than a box perm on a lot of people, especially the shorter hair types. All right, so I hope that sounds good to everybody. So I just kind of want to talk about what the main active ingredients are, and I want to elaborate a little bit more than what this sheet is telling us. So of course, right there it's listed the most important ingredients that we use in our balanced perm. We have wheat proteins, which help restore and fortify the hair. So this is what the strengthening agent is. People will ask a lot, okay, well, it strengthens the hair and it conditions it, but what does that? I'm an ingredient person. I kind of like to know that kind of stuff. And this is what it is. It has the wheat proteins in it. Now, it's not going to bother somebody who's allergic to wheat. We have asked the chemist that many times. It's the proteins that are taken out of it, not the actual wheat itself. So you do not have to worry about anyone with celiacs or anyone with a wheat discomfort or sensitivity having a reaction to this. I can tell you that I have someone with very bad celiac disease and we use this perm on her. It is no problem because they're not ingesting it, and hopefully. And it's just the protein, the strength that gives the wheat strength. So I hope that helps. And then it also has vegetable phospholipids and the glycolipids as well. Can't say that word. I could sound it out, but it's just not going to happen for me. I've tried over the last couple of weeks and it's just not working for me. But what these 2 ingredients do is that it compacts the cuticle and makes it very strong. So that's why under the benefits, we're able to get tons of shine, tons of moisture locked in, and a much more full-bodied bouncy curl. If you guys have ever taken, especially Jeffrey, our brand manager, if you've taken any of his essentials products class, when he talks about the Love Curl line, he talks about how curly hair loves fat, right? Curly hair loves fat. It needs it to be shiny, moisturized, and bouncy. And that's what those 2 lipids are going to give you. Lipid literally means fat. it creates a seal on the outside, a good film to protect the hair, not only while you're perming it, during the perming action, but beyond, right? And then you're going to, of course, recommend that they use the Love Curl line to help enforce that even more with those lipids. So anytime you see anything with a lipid on the end, it means moisture, fat, and protection, and smoothing down the cuticle. All right, so I hope that sounds good for everybody. We're gonna kind of move on to how to use the balance system. Cool, and then after I go through this, I'll answer any questions that you guys may have. So if you look on your sheet, this again is exactly why you want to take a screenshot or a picture of this somehow, because this is going to map out exactly when and where to use balance, when to use lotion number 1 and when to use lotion number 2. So the biggest difference between number 1 and number 2, and this is going to go over to boucle as well. Number 1 is always for strong, normal hair, okay? So anybody who's resistant, anyone who isn't bleached, maybe they have, you know, a demi-permanent color, anybody who's like salt and pepper, they're definitely going to be Balance Lotion number 1. So strong and normal hair, okay? Balance Lotion number 2 is going to be anybody who's color treated or sensitive, meaning they have very fine hair, it's very porous, they've been highlighted, they have any sort of permanent color on their hair, you're automatically going to go to Balance Lotion number 2. So number 2 is obviously your more gentle solution. And that's very indicative of perms, obviously, right? So Balance Curling System number 1, let's talk about that. It's very tiny on my screen. I can read it, but I might have to get in a little close to you guys. So I apologize for being up in there. All right, so Balance Curling System number 1. If somebody is more resistant, that's when you can use a cap. So see where it says plastic for difficult? That's not for over their mouth. It's for over their perm rods. But these days I have a lot of clients who need to put some plastic over their mouth. Okay, so Balance Curling System number 1, if they're more resistant, you can use a cap. That's obviously going to trap in some heat. Typically for someone who's normal hair, not overly resistant or color treated or sensitive, we want you to process it in open air without a cap on it, because they don't need any extra heat, right? So if they're more resistant though, and you just want to trap a little bit of that heat in, then you would use a cap. Also then, again, under that, you see how heat source only for extreme resistant. You do not need a heat source. I rarely use heat on my perms because I don't have very many clients. First of all, I don't have many clients that don't have color on their hair. I do a lot of color. So really only if somebody is very, very white, gray, and very resistant will I put some heat over it. But you can, which is great. You just need to determine when you need to use that. And it's really for extreme resistance. The plastic cap really is plenty of heat. So here's how to break it down even more. The biggest question is, well, when and where? How do I know if they're resistant or anything like that? So here's how we break it down. So for Balance Curling System number 1, remember it's for, they say resistant hair, but it's for strong and normal, okay? Which by the chemist is considered resistant. So a little bit of different verbiage between the Italians and us. So if they're natural hair, meaning there's no color on it, no color, maybe a semi-permanent, like a true semi-permanent, like Finest Pigments, that's literally no activator, just is put on the hair, direct dye, that could be considered natural as well. But natural hair and thick, not only thick density, but thick coarse. The strand is thick. Then you would use the heat source and cover, or cover it with a plastic wrap, okay? If they have natural hair, it's thick, but it's also porous. There's some dryness to it. I always say these are the thick, coarse girls, but it's long because the hair out here on the bottom is always going to be porous. There's some, you know, some porosity change from root to ends. Then you would just use the Day spray, our leave-in mist from Essentials, from Essential Hair Care. It's the yellow bottle, Day spray, not the cream conditioner, the Day mist. And you would use that as a porosity equalizer. So after you shampoo them with the Solu shampoo, which is our deeper cleansing shampoo, right? You towel dry them really, really, really good. And then spray on the Day mist. And then you would use the Day mist for your end paper. I always use the Day mist for my end paper saturation, always. Because the little ends that the end papers are in are obviously going to be more porous than anything else on the hair. So that's how you would equal out the porosity before doing the perm, by spraying Day mist over the whole head, not just the ends. And then you're adding extra Day mist to the ends with the end paper and even equalizing those even more. Okay. If they have natural uncolored hair, but it's a medium consistency as far as medium density and medium as far as between fine and coarse, then you could use a heat source or cover with plastic wrap. Because right now we're dealing with someone who does not have any color on it, so it's normal and strong hair, and it's medium texture. Okay. And then last but definitely not least, we have someone who's color treated, not bleached, not highlighted, but just a permanent color, an all over permanent color, okay, or a demi-color, but their hair is thicker consistency, thicker texture, coarser. Then you would use the Day conditioner as a porosity equalizer again and decrease your processing time. This is a good time to talk about processing time. Of course, really, quite frankly, any perming system is anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes. But what I find in past education that I've had with perms is that you just pretty much plan on leaving it on for 20 minutes and you check here and there, right? But really, of course, with Davines, I mainly teach color, for those of you who don't know me. And we always want to give you predictability. Number one, being predictable and respecting the quality of the hair. So in our classes, our hands-on classes, we definitely teach you how to check those curls every 2 minutes. If it's somebody who's very porous and fine and has highlights, you're checking it every 1 minute. Like you're just sitting there, and every minute you set a timer on your phone and you check every minute. Then when it's ready, you rinse it off, and we'll get into how to do all of that. And then you you neutralize for the same amount of time that you process the perm solution. Okay. So I'll get into that a little bit more in a second here when we talk about neutralizer a little bit more in depth. But if somebody has color treated hair, just check them every couple of minutes. Every couple of minutes. And as soon as it's ready, you rinse it off. Okay. All right. So I hope that makes sense for resistant hair. Are there any questions up to this point? You can either just unmute and ask, or you can type it in the chat. And then I don't know if you guys saw in the chat bar where Jane said, if you want this user guide sent to you, you can use her email that's in there and she'll send you the PDF file. That's awesome. Thanks, Jane. All right, let's move forward. So balance curling system number 2 is obviously for color treated and sensitive hair. So this is the more gentle of the balance system. And then it breaks it down there for you. Now you're not going to use a cap on any of these people, a plastic cap, and you're not going to use heat. So this one is very straightforward because no matter what, if you notice there, you're pretty much doing the same thing on everybody in this category. If they're natural, medium, porous, natural hair, so just because they're sensitive hair doesn't mean that they have color on it. So if there's no color, it's medium, texture, but it's porous. You're going to use the Day Day conditioner as a porosity equalizer and decrease your processing time. And that's literally what you're going to do for every single person in this category. So natural fine hair, colored medium hair, and then streaks, which obviously means highlights or some sort of bleach in the hair. Now, this one for streaks, that means that they're not a full bleaching tone. It means that they have some natural hair in there somewhere, right? So there's some, I don't know, hand painting going on, traditional highlights, pretty much everyone these days. So this is not to say, so that's important. This is not to say that somebody with any sort of bleach in their hair, if they have highlights in that they can't get a perm, okay? Because this is a very gentle system. So that's super exciting. All right, so let's talk about neutralizer. I get kind of excited about neutralizer for some reason. So one thing I definitely want to point out to you guys that I think has been confusing over the years is that, because this has changed a bit, is that there is one neutralizer for the entire perming family. It's the same neutralizer for Balance 1 and 2, and it's the same neutralizer of that as Boucle 1 and 2. One neutralizer. It's called Extra Delicate Neutralizer. That is it. There isn't a different one for the Balance system and a different one for Boucle system. The reason why that can get confusing is because years ago, it was in 2 different bottles. So there would be a neutralizer for the Boucle system and a neutralizer for Balance, but it was literally the same product, exactly the same in each bottle, but they just had a specific bottle for each system. So for any of you that have been with Davines for a long time, that might have been confusing, and it was to me too for a little while. But that's why it's just changed, and it's literally one neutralizer. So again, that makes it so easy for us that just like with color, we don't need a different activator system for our bleaches. I buy all my own color. I own a salon with 2 partners, and we all provide our color for ourselves. And it's really important to me to not have to buy 2 different activators that are going to sit there for the day that I need it. So that's just a little tip from me. So what does a neutralizer do? We know this. It restores the disulfide bonds. So we get the reduction from the perm solution, right? It technically breaks those bonds, but then we obviously need the neutralizer to put them back together over the perm rod that we just kind of want to make a new form for the hair, right? Well, I mentioned before how we recommend neutralizing for the same amount of time that the perm solution is on. Traditionally, and it works of course, but traditionally you process your perm for up to 20 minutes and then you rinse that off really well. Then you blot really good. And then you put your neutralizer on for 5 minutes. You rinse it off or take your rods out, rinse it out again, and you're good to go. Well, what if you processed a perm for 20 minutes and then you only neutralized for 5 minutes? What happens, right? So it still works. You're still neutralizing. You're still rebuilding those bonds in 5 minutes. But however long it took to break them for that specific client is how long it takes to fully restore them. So what happens is this: if the hair actually needed more than 5 minutes to neutralize, it starts to air neutralize. And what have we done before it starts to air neutralize? We took the rods out. So that extra time, it's air neutralizing with the weight of the curls being stretched out. If that's what you want, awesome. Let them air neutralize and let that curl relax a little bit. But 9 times out of 10, we don't want that. We use a certain rod size because that's the type of curl that we want. And so if you ever have it, and this used to happen to me all the time before I learned this, they'd come back and be like, oh, my curl relaxed. And it's like, oh, well, it's the weight of the curl, it's you brushing it, it's this, and that stuff adds to that, of course. But really, mainly, it air neutralized out of the rod, and it just needed more neutralizing time. So the best way to set yourself up for the perfect curl is to neutralize for the same amount of time that you process the perm for. And that's why we have you set a timer and check it every 2 minutes so you can get even more precise. Okay. So rinse the perm solution out. We recommend 7 to 10 minutes. Back to beauty school. Rinse, rinse, rinse. The longer their hair is, the more you want to rinse. So we definitely recommend 7 to 10 minutes of rinsing. Then we recommend, of course, towel blotting with paper towel. Here's a little fun trick to make this part easy. This is the part I hate. The blotting is the part that I would always probably skimp on and then put on extra perm solution in the past. I'm not going to lie about it. If you take paper towel, or even if you want to be even more sustainable about it, you can use little washcloths, little hand towels, and roll them up. So either roll up your paper towel or roll up your little hand towels, and you just stuff it in between each rod. I'm not gonna lie, paper towel really works well for this. So you just roll it up really small and you put it in between each rod, and then you just let it sit, because you have that absorbent in between each individual rod, and you don't have to sit there and press and press and press, which really just causes frizziness anyway, right? So just shove that the towel or paper towel in between each rod. The little hand towel works really good when you're using those bendy rods, which we also recommend for longer hair. So they're just like a foam rod. It doesn't have a little elastic on it, and it just bends. The towel, the little hand towel, works really good just to shove in there, and you just literally just walk away for 10 minutes or talk to them for 10 minutes, and it works really beautifully, and you're not messing up the curl and causing frizziness. So after you blotted, then you neutralize. Again, this says process 10 minutes. I always say cross that out and process as long as you process the perm solution for. I think 10 minutes is a good middle of the road, and that's why they put 10 minutes on there. Then they recommend reapplying, so making sure you're extra saturated, and process another 10 minutes. So there it is, your full 20 minutes, because you're assuming that most perms on normal thick hair are processing for the full 20 minutes. So there's your full processing of neutralizing time. So in class, we always recommend that as well. So let's say your perm solution processed for 12 minutes, okay? And so then you would put your neutralizer on, and you would process that for 6 minutes. At the middle mark, you would reapply, because you want to make sure that it's fresh solution and enough on there, and then you would just let it process for the additional 6 minutes, so a full 12 minutes. Then we recommend rinsing on top of the rods. If you're somebody that likes to take the rods out and then rinse, that's me. It's totally fine, because you just fully neutralized and repaired the bonds because you let it process long enough. So you can absolutely do that. But we recommend you rinsing on top of the rods and then pulling them out and giving it a final rinse. So that's the major difference, I think, in how we teach how to do it, is neutralizing for the same amount of time as the perm solution processed, blotting enough, and rinsing enough. So those are the major things that will give you the perfect perm that lasts. Any questions on that so far, you guys? Salon Only Sales has the bendy rods as well. So those are really great. I mean, especially when we get into the next perming system, boucle, if you want that curl where it's actually beachy, what people want, it's a game changer. All right, so let's go ahead to boucle. All right, so boucle, this one definitely, oops, I'm just gonna grab this question, you guys, that came in on the chat real quick so I don't forget you. Can you air neutralize under the dryer with no heat? Technically it works, but honestly, it probably would take longer than just letting them process at the shampoo bowl with the neutralizer on for the extra amount of time. But yeah, air neutralizing absolutely works, but it can sometimes take just a little bit longer. I hope that answers your question. All right. You're welcome. Okay, cool. So let's get into boucle because this one is different, okay? And it's not to say that there aren't other perms like this out there, but it's just not the norm, okay? And ours, because of the ingredients that Davines uses, light years ahead. Boucle. Boucle is a bio-waving system, okay? So the way that it differs from a traditional perm, like we just talked about with balance, is that it gives you a flat wave, even when you wrap it on a round rod. It gives you a beachy flat wave, which really anybody with wavy hair, that's what it is. It's just a wave and it's flat. So that is something that is not, you're not able to achieve with a traditional perm that actually makes the form, that coil on the rod, okay? So here are the benefits. It's a reducing agent. Any perming solution is a reducing agent with a structure similar to keratin. So this is why you can absolutely use this perm on someone who is a full bleach in tone. Yes, a full bleach in tone. Now, if the bleach is already making her hair break off, she's probably not a candidate for boucle, but if she has healthy hair for a bleach in tone, you can absolutely do it because this has a similar structure to keratin. So I've heard people out there say, well, I've used a system in the past that's like a keratin treatment that makes the hair curly. This is kind of along those lines, okay? Because it's infusing the hair with keratin, it is making it stronger. So it gives you uniform and extremely natural wave effect, okay? That flat wave. It doesn't require the use of heat source ever, even if they're resistant. And it's very safe and simple to use, okay? So let's talk about the main active ingredients in this. And this one, because it is a little bit different than what we use, I wrote down a little bit more about that. So any sort of traditional perm, you guys, like balance, is a thio-based perm. That's just very traditional and very indicative of a perm. So sorry, I just wanted to click on that, make sure. Okay, so very indicative of a perm. This is not a thio, it's thio-free, okay? So that's another reason why it makes it a little bit gentler on the hair, I suppose. All right, so main active ingredients are cysteamine. It's the reducing agent, and it's also a conditioning agent. So not only does it break the disulfide bonds, but it doesn't break them as much as a regular perm does, and it has a conditioning agent to it. So you get a 2-for-1. You get it to break some bonds, but not all of them, and you get some conditioning from the cysteamine. The molecular structure of the reducer, the cysteamine, is similar to cysteine, okay, which is an ingredient that's already in the hair. All right, and I think I wrote something down about that. Yes, so it gently and very easily penetrates the hair strand, which creates very low damage. It does not need to lift the cuticle up very much to get inside the hair strand. And because we're not breaking all of the disulfide bonds, we just need to sort of a little bit, right? Just to bend the hair a little bit. We're not trying to get a full-on coil. We're just trying to bend the hair a little bit. So because of that, it's much more gentle on the hair. All right. The cysteamine too has a very small molecular size. For any of you who've taken a mask with Vibrachrome color class with us, it's very similar to our color molecules as well. So it's not surprising to me that Davines uses this. And then you have your chelating agents. They capture the metal ions that can affect the product's stability and function. Okay. So any sort of buildup or metal ions that are on the hair, it removes those. All right, so I hope that sounds exciting to everybody. Let's get into how to use it, and then we can answer some questions if there's some. Feel free to type them in the chat to you guys. All right, Boucle Bio-Waving System number 1. If you guys notice up at the top where it shows the 2 bottles, number 1 is for natural thick hair, and number 2 is for finer color treated hair. Same as balance. So that should be easy. Number 1 is for the stronger hair. Number 2 is always for hair that has something done to it. Okay. All right. Boucle Bio-Waving System number 1. So thick to thin hair. So this is your, natural and thick hair types. So if they have no color, so no color on any of these people. Anybody that falls into this category, no color. So, but if they have thick hair, you follow the instructions shown in the application method, which basically means you just apply it like normal. It's the same. It's the same as any perm. You put it on, you watch it every couple of minutes, and you're good to go, okay? So you don't really have to do anything different to people that have thick hair, except maybe they're going to be processing a little bit longer. And then you have thick hair that has some dryness to it. Again, we're going to use the Day Day Mist as a porosity equalizer. Easy. Medium hair, so medium texture, nothing has to change. Just watch them, put on a perm like you normally put on a perm, easy peasy. They probably won't process as long as the thick haired person. And then last but not least, you have your medium texture, but they are dry. And again, Day Day conditioner to equalize. And then of course, watch your processing time. So easy. When in doubt, use Day Day spray to equal out the porosity, right? You can't go wrong with it. It's so light. It's not going to really interfere unless you have someone who's so insanely resistant, maybe, but no, it's very, very light. And quite frankly, anybody with hair past their ears needs some porosity equalizer. Another way too, you guys, to sort of add on another service to your perm clients is if you carry Natural Tech, there is a system within their Natural Tech system, which is for our treatments, our treatment line, and there's the Nourishing line, and there's the Keratin Wonder treatment. You can do that the same day as a perm. You can do it a different day or the same day. So it's really awesome. You could do it right after if you wanted to. So if you have someone that has highlights or bleached or is a little extra porous, you could do that keratin treatment. It's a keratin conditioning treatment, not a smoothing treatment, right after, same day. Or you could work them up to their perm and have them do a series of them before you let them get a perm too. So another way to use Natural Tech. Chelsea, I'll get to your question in just a couple minutes. All right, so let's go through how to use system number 2, and then I'll get to some questions here as well. So that's how we use it for normal hair. I always put normal hair in quotes because I'm like, what is that? I don't, we know what it is, but it's not very typical. So finer treated hair. So anybody who has a finer hair texture has any sort of color or bleach on their hair. So if there's no color, but it's fine, a very fine texture, we're using Day Day Mist and watching our timing. If it's no color, fine, and dry, we're using the Day Day Mist and watching that hair like every minute. Not that you have to be afraid of it, but just why leave it on any longer than it needs to? Those people are, it's like putting bleach on the hair. You know who's going to lighten faster just based on texture, okay? So it's the same thing with the perm. So fine and porous is probably going to process the least amount of time, right? So we just want to watch it and use that Day Day spray. If they have natural hair, but it is thick, this one is interesting to me. I wonder if this is, I think what this is supposed to say is natural, thick, and porous, because otherwise you would use Boucle Biosystem number 1. So I think it's supposed to say natural, thick, and porous. So somebody who has natural hair, it's thick and porous, you have a choice between biosystem number 1 and biosystem number 2, quite honestly. Just depends on what your gut's telling you, how gentle you want to be. So anybody who's taking notes or when you get your user guide, please change that to thick porous. All right, everybody in this category, you are using Day Day Mist and watching your timing. So now we get into people who have color on their hair, right? So if they have color treated hair, no bleach, just color treated, but they have a medium texture, same. Color treated hair, that's fine, same. Streaks. Anytime you see streaks, it means some sort of highlights, whether, like I said before, it's hand painted, it's foiled, it's teasy lights, it's baby lights. I don't care what kind of streaks they are. If there's pieces of bleach in there anywhere on the hair, you would put them into this category. So streaks with a prevalence of natural hair, okay, which is most people, again, day mist, and watch that timing. You can also use it on people with streaks that have like bleached hair. So this would be your ombre people. Anybody who has like bigger sections of bleached hair, but there still is some natural hair in there, then they would fall into that category. And then last but definitely not least, someone who's decolored. Anytime we see a D next to something or decolored means bleached. They're just full on bleached. All of their hair the color has been removed. So they too can have wavy hair. It may only sit on a couple of minutes. I've seen in a perm class that, you know, somebody with ombre, they put it on the rods, wrap around the rod. So if you've ever used those bendy rods to perm, you don't wrap the hair on top of itself like you do on a traditional perm rod, right? You roll it down the rod like a curling wand. So you can see exactly where the natural hair is versus where the bleached hair is on the ends. And so you can put your, if you want to be even more precise about it, you put your perm solution on first on the natural hair, the whole head, then you go back and you put perm solution on the ends for the last couple minutes. Just like you're putting highlights in the hair, right? You're not overlapping every time on those bleached ends. You might go back and when you pull the foil out, run that bleach down for a couple of minutes, right? That's how I do it. So it's the same thing with the perm. I find for people who don't perm a lot, if you just think about perming kind of in the same way, and I do a lot of relaxers too. I have a lot of African-American clients that I do relaxers on. And you kind of think about it the same way too. It's kind of like bleaching. Where are you not going to overlap with bleach? Where is the hair more porous when you're bleaching someone out? Where is it going to be more resistant when you're bleaching someone out? It's the same thing. It's the same sort of idea. You're not doing the same thing to the hair, but it's the same sort of idea on where to go with everything, if that makes sense. So let me answer this question. Any other questions that you guys have, either pop in or type them out for me. Is this a new system? Sorry, I missed the first 2 minutes. Chelsea, it isn't new. No, it's not. Davines has had it for quite a long time. But I think what's extra good about this class today is that we're really honing in on when and where to use each one, because it's been sort of confusing, I think, over the last few years of like, what is boucle? What's the difference? What's balance? When do I, like, what's going on? And like we know too, you're welcome. Now we know too, like we go through waves, no pun intended. We go through waves of when people want perms, right? I mean, I feel like it's always in the spring. Every time my, like, whatever age they are, long blonde that we've been highlighting for 35 years straight, all of a sudden wants a beachy wave perm this spring because that's what all the models are wearing and that's what all the celebrities have. And you're like, always in the past it was, I can't give you beachy waves with a perm. That's not how it works, Stacy. That's just not how it works. And now it is how it works. So that's my long answer to no, it's not new, but it's new now, new information. All right. And then, though this is a curling system, could it be used as a relaxing system in any capacity? That's a great question. Let's be honest. Most relaxers are doing the same or relaxers in general are doing the same thing to the hair that a perm is. Instead of straightening it out with a cream and having the cream hold it straight, we're wrapping it around the rod. So that's how we're, hold on one second. Anybody else have virtual kids at home? Virtual school only? Super fun, super fun. Okay, so it's essentially doing the same thing. So if you have someone with extremely curly hair, that doesn't have anything else on it as far as a relaxer, could you use this to wrap around other rods to relax their curl? Technically, yes. You can do that with any perm. If they don't have, most perms, the reason why you can't do that with other perms is because they're thio-based. And once you relax someone's hair, you can't then go in with something that's thio-based and put that on top. You'll get breakage. But this is not thio-based. Now, if you had somebody with extremely curly hair or curly hair in general already naturally, and you wanted to change the type of curl with a regular perm, you can do that absolutely, as long as they don't have anything else thio-based on their hair already. Or excuse me, a relaxer on their hair already. Perfect. Okay, so Beth Brent, she's on here. Any sales questions or pricing questions, or we're going to refer to Beth, but she put a really great thing on there for you guys too, if you see in the chat. So average price per application is approximately $5 to $8. $5 to $8, depending on the hair's length and density, obviously. Thank you so much for that, Beth. I think that's super important to refer back to what I said in the beginning, which is that is why we have it in sort of bulk sizes, so that you're not wasting, because I mean, a box of a regular, like a different, I guess a box perm, what are they, like average maybe $8 to $12 maybe? But how many times do you actually use that whole bottle? You know, on short hair, you're not using an entire bottle from one of those box perms, and you can't save it. So you just waste all that money. So that's awesome. Thank you, Beth. All right. So if you guys notice at the bottom, neutralizing, it's the same as what we went over with balance, right? It's the same exact situation. It's literally the same product. So whether you're perming with something like this, that's more gentle, or you're perming with a traditional thio relaxer, or oh my gosh, thio perm, it is the same neutralizer. The neutralizer is doing the same thing to the hair. It's repairing those bonds in the form that you put it into. So on top of that rod. And same thing, you want to rinse the hair for 7 to 10 minutes, towel blot, apply your neutralizer, and then, of course, like I said before, neutralize for the same amount of time that you process the perm. Here, they're giving you a general timing of 10 minutes and 10 minutes because the maximum processing time is 20 minutes. So if we tell you on the user guide, process your neutralizer for 10, put more on and process another 10, no matter how long you processed your perm solution, you're good. Does that make sense of why they put it on there like that? So neutralizer can absolutely stay on longer. Just don't leave it on less time than your perm solution was, because otherwise your curls are going to droop and stretch out no matter what. And that's something you really don't want to do with boucle, because it's a much gentler wave. If it relaxes a little bit with a traditional perm like balance, okay, the curl might be a little bit looser. But if you are just giving that hair a little bit of wave on somebody and you let it fall, they're going to be really unhappy, and so will you. And no one wants to do a perm a second time. That is worse than color, in my opinion. So neutralize for the same amount of time or longer. Any questions, you guys? Now's the time to ask. And also, too, if you have any questions about the Love Curl System Essentials, that would be a time to ask, too. We definitely make sure you refer to the Salon Only Sales website a lot, because there are constantly classes on there. Really amazing classes, all color and product. So definitely keep an eye on that. Being that these come in bigger bottles versus the little bottles of box perms, what is the best method of application? Great question, Nicole. I think I said it super briefly, probably too fast in the beginning. We do have specific application bottles for the perming system. They look like those bottles that are on the user guide right there at the top, those white bottles that have the B on them, but they're clear. And so what we do at the salon, or what I do, is I put a P on one of the like I write a P with magic marker on the bottom of one of them and an N on the other. So you know which one's neutralizer and which one's perm, and you just, obviously you're washing them out and rinsing them out. So you always know which is the perm solution bottle and the neutralizer bottle. I'm just weird like that. I'm afraid of mixing. So yep, you get clear bottles that are specifically just for perming. And then it's even less waste because you're not throwing away a plastic bottle every time you do a perm. All right, so if you have questions, keep them coming. We have a couple minutes left, but let's talk about this because this is super, super exciting. So here is an exclusive deal just for you guys for taking the class today. So I can't even believe this deal. So you get 3 bottles of the Boucle #1. Now remember, Boucle is the one we just talked about, the wavy perm. So 3 #1s, 3 #2s, and 1 neutralizer. The neutralizer bottle is a lot bigger. And then for free, you get a Day Mist, an applicator bottle, and a pack of end papers for $38. $38. That's a great deal. Super great deal. So just talk to your sales rep about that if you want to order it. All right. How was it, you guys? Do you want a perm now?
We do have a hand up, Angela. I'm not sure.
Oh, go ahead. Whoever. Okay, whoever it is. What's your name?
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
I was wondering, how many perms do you get out of one kit?
That's a great question. Out of the perm bottles, hopefully, maybe Beth, do you have the answer for that? I would say, depending on how long hair, you know, obviously how long hair you're doing it on, but I would say at least 5.
Okay.
But again, that depends on how much hair you're doing it on each time. If you have a lot of long-haired people that you're doing it on, it's going to obviously go a lot quicker. You get a decent amount of applications out of each bottle. So if Beth has the exact answer, 3 to 5 applications per bottle, depending on the hair length that you're using it on. Yep.
Thank
and
you.
Just like color, yes, a great question. You're welcome. And like I tell everybody when I teach color, just mix up less than you think you need to start with. You can it takes 2 seconds to pour more into the bottle right in front of them too. So, because you don't have to mix it like you mix another bowl of color. So I always say, just instead of, wasting it, just put in a little bit and work your way up. But 3 to 5 applications per bottle. So think about it. At your max, you're getting 30 applications of perms for $38. Crazy. It's a great way to start using it too. Any other questions, guys? All right. I just want to thank you guys for coming today. I hope this gets you excited about perming because you can do it with color treated hair and bleached hair and all that good stuff, especially the Boucle. Try it out with this package. It's so cheap. And this is the best time to try it because your investment is so low. I would do a couple of models, quite honestly, for that price. So try it out. It's a very low investment for you to try. And also, here's the other thing I want to talk about real quick before I let you guys go. A couple of things. Number one, if you aren't already a part of it, join davinespro.com. Most questions for Davines can be, and then Anika, I'll get to your question as well. Most questions that I see on like Facebook and stuff like that can be answered through Davines Pro really easily, and it has so many uses other than just answering questions. So davinespro.com, you do need to sort of apply, but all you do is you put in your information, your salon information. So do that. All the user guides are on there as well for everything. And then also be sure to follow not only all the Davines avenues on social media, so Davines Color, Davines North America, Davines Official, all that great stuff, but also please follow Salon Only Sales on Instagram and Facebook. Follow your rep on Instagram and Facebook. Follow Beth Brent on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to follow me, it's Hair on Fire _Milwaukee on Instagram. But if you follow all of us, you guys, we are constantly sharing updates for classes, new products that are coming out. Again, go to salononlysales.com and visit and look at all of the classes that are offered. We have like 2 or 3 classes just next week. One of them that I'm teaching with my friend Jeffrey called Professionally Speaking, where we're talking about all this stuff about color and all the crazy questions we get asked. So with that said, thank you guys so much for attending today. If you have any additional questions, just go ahead and message me on Instagram or ask your rep and they'll ask me as well. So is that all for the, oh, and then wait, I just wanted to answer this question from Anika. How long do the bottles last after opening if you just did a perm? Okay, great question. The shelf life for any of our products is on the back of the bottle. It looks like a little container with a lid open, and then it has like a 12 months or 24 months right in there. I believe it's 12 months, but just double check when you get the product, and that is how long it lasts from the time you open the top. So if last June you did your first perm out of that bottle, it's kaput. But it's a long time. It's longer than you think, for sure. Great question. You're welcome. All right, thanks, guys.